Hi, this is Chris. I'm the CEO and founder of the Media Black Book, and I'm going to give you a quick tour of the system. Before we get too far into this, though, I do want to point out the fact that there's a few different ways that you can access data that comes from Media Black Book. The monthly report that you're looking at right now is an individual credit-based report. And the way that this works is essentially the identities of the companies are masked until you use some number of credits in order to expose the owner information. There is another version of the report that does not do that. It's an enterprise version, and it's basically full access. You get everything. Plus, you have the ability to search by company name and also the top brands that the company owns. So if you're one of those types of reps that is monitoring a particular set of accounts, that might be something of interest to you. That being said, it is full access, and we're talking anywhere from 12 to 15,000 prospects per month. So just up front, this is not a cheap system. It's custom and it's enterprise. So it's more for people that have big teams. If you're interested in something like that, please give me a quick call or email me at chris@mediablackbook.com. We can sit down and discuss your needs a little bit more and see if it's a good fit for you. We also do offer custom lists. So the back-end system that powers the Media Black Book report is very robust. It has over 1.7 million profiles, as well as covering over 3.4 million brands. So if it's out there, it's probably in there, is what I like to say. It's worth a sit down if you want to build a custom general prospecting list. It's a very, very deep system. That being said, it does also have agency relationships as well. There's about 100,000 companies that have agency data mapped to them in some sort or another. So if that's something that you're interested in, again, give me a quick call or just email me, chris@mediablackbook.com, or we can sit down and have a discussion about potentially building out a custom general prospecting list. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the basic operations of how this works. First thing that you're going to notice is there's a search bar up at the top here. Oh, and by the way, when you first log into the system, this is what you will see when it loads up on your computer. Please be patient depending on the device that you're working on. It could take anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds to load. It's essentially a JavaScript application, so it's got to load some data in. So if it spins for a little bit, don't worry, that's totally normal. But this is what you're going to load into. And this is where you're going to spend most of your time. So in order to search the report, you can actually use the search bar up here, and it searches all of the fields in this report. And some of the fields that you can search are things like the top keywords that describe the company's products and their services. It gives you different categories for products and services. Keep in mind that most businesses are a combination of product and service. So for example, a restaurant company like McDonald's, they'll show up under things like hotels and restaurants, but they'll also be under some sort of a service category, depending on what it is they do. So people are typically a mix. That being said, you also have the ability to search for particular entity types. So if you're looking for big corporations, you can do that. Or maybe you want to go after small companies like LLCs. You can also search for those as well. You also have the ability to search for different types of activity, which I'll cover later on in this video, what you can search for. We also have the ability to search for ad media summaries if it's applicable. We have media breakdowns for quite a few advertisers. You also have the ability to search for things like internal media buying departments, internal creative agencies, external creative agency use, and obviously we've got a few other options over here for where the company is located, and also the ability to figure out if you've opened or closed that profile. So if you want to find profiles you've already opened up, all you got to do is just search for opened, and there you go. These are the profiles that you have opened. If you want to find stuff that I have not opened yet, just search for closed, and there you go. Pretty simple. You do have the ability to filter this report as well. And to filter it, you just use this section of the search engine here. It's a drop-down menu. You can pick whatever column you want to filter on. So maybe you work in, I don't know, out of home. and you've got a minimum and a maximum range for the amount. So maybe you're trying to find people that spend at least $500,000 a year on out of home, and there you go. Pretty simple. If you want to order a column in ascending or descending order, all you have to do is just click on the column heading. They are buttons, and you will be able to toggle them up and down whichever direction you want them to go in. If you want to change up the column visibility, you can also control what columns are visible by going to the column visible selector here, and you can just turn on and turn off whatever columns you want to see or not see. Your search results will show up here in the top, and you'll also have a little reminder here about what you're about what you're ordering the report on. In the report, you'll notice there are quick links. Anything that has a document icon is a quick link. So if you click on, for example, the company name, it'll take you to the main tab. But if you click on, let's say, like a media summary, it will take you into a media breakdown. So that's essentially how the report operates. It is paginated. The pagination is down here in the corner, and the number of credits you have available is also available down in the lower right-hand corner over here. And every time you open a profile, if you don't have any access to it yet and you have some credits, it'll ask you to spend credits, and all you got to do is just confirm. So that's essentially how you use the system. Let me go ahead and give you a little bit more information about the activity score, because that's what most people are here for. Right? This is what the system is really all about. It's about the pre-advertising campaign activities, stuff that suggests a strong suggestion of an advertising campaign coming up, all the business activity. That's what this report is really about. That's what you're here for. So let me go ahead and explain what that score is. You're looking at it right now. It's in the highlighted yellow column. So the best way to think about this score is essentially it is a measure of how high quality the activity is. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the size of the company. It's completely independent. So it's perfectly possible for a really small local advertiser to have a much better score than, say, an enterprise advertiser that's spending millions a year. So if you're looking for people that are within a particular size range in terms of how much they spend per year, you're definitely going to want to use the filter up here to isolate those profiles. So that being said, there is one aspect of this score that is directly correlated to money, and that's if they've raised financing and we know how much money they have raised. So you'll notice at the beginning of a report, it's always going to be dominated by people who raised money. Like in this case here, this company, Generate Capital, they raised $880 million, and their score is basically what they raised. It'll also be, if they have additional activity, it'll be added into that score. So these aren't the normal scores. Let me go ahead and get into the report a little bit further, show you what a more typical score looks like for people who aren't raising money. It's typically going to be, on the high end, it's going to be maybe 400 or 500, something like that. So here we go. We got some examples here. We got some people that are doing 180. Here are a couple people doing 300, 400. So this is a little bit more typical for what the scores look like when there isn't any known fundraising going on. So that being said, there are a number of activities that you can search for that the Media Black Book tracks. And those activities are new package designs, new label designs, rebranding, new products, new services, kind of the same thing. Anything involving new products, new services, new brands, anything involving brand expansion. So for example, maybe they're adding new stuff to a brand. Maybe they're in the business of selling, for example, winter clothing, and they're going to start selling spring clothing, right? That kind of a thing. We also look out for loans being secured. Loans, by the way, are not necessarily going to be measured in financial dollars. It's a little bit more of a representative type of a measurement. So when we get into the reports, you're looking at the loan stuff, the bigger the number, the more significant the loan. We don't always know what the asset is worth. We just know that it is, relatively speaking, a big or a small asset. So we represent the size of the loan with just a number. I know that may seem kind of generic to people, but it's really the best that we can do because the value isn't always explicitly stated. You don't know the condition of the asset either. So that being said, we do track loans. Any brand acquisitions, so if anybody's purchased the brands of another company and they have completed their acquisition. So that's what we actually track, is when the acquisition completes, which is actually the optimal timing. People sometimes will announce they're going to buy a brand, and the actual the ability to control that brand won't happen for years. So we're coming in and telling you when the actual ownership transaction has happened, and that's a much more optimal timing. So that's what that's all about. And we also track things like name changes for the company. So that being said, you can learn more about what's going on by just looking at the activity summary. It's a quick view, essentially. If you want to go ahead and see what the activity looks like, all you got to do is just click through, and you'll be able to view the activity in that particular company. Actually, I got a really good example I want to show you. So this is what a typical activity timeline looks like. It's essentially, there's three timelines essentially that are in the view here. There's pre-release timeline, newly released timeline. So this is stuff that's actually come out that we've been able to detect is now on the market, as well as a forecast of what is going to be coming on the market. Not every single company has a forecast. The forecast is only available if there's enough data to essentially produce the forecast. This timeline, you can zoom in on it. So if you want to isolate a particular time of the year, you can. Keep in mind that the activity score that you see in the report is for the most recent month. So in this case, it would be this particular section of the graph. If you want to learn more about the activity that we have detected, all you got to do is just scroll down and you can see an explanation of what we've detected. So it looks like American Airlines has some plan to do something involving a hotel. They have some new plane designs coming out. This is falling under packaging. Packaging is kind of a big category. So sometimes we can detect, for example, it's common in the beverage industry to be able to detect different bottle designs. Sometimes you can detect different labels. It just depends on the industry. I've seen gas station, design overhauls for like the awnings and stuff like that. In this case, you're actually looking at what appear to be new plane designs. I guess they've got new paint schemes that they're going to be putting on their planes. We also have some rebranding going on this is from a few months ago. One thing I want to point out about the rebranding is that it's a very sensitive machine vision algorithm that does this. Okay, this is done entirely by a machine vision algorithm. It's very sensitive, and sometimes your results will vary with this. Okay. You'll notice here that the differences between these two logos are pretty subtle. So that's the new one, and that's the old one. It's got that, I think they call that the attacking eagle or something. And That's obviously a rebrand. That one's been talked about. I know that one's been in the press recently. I just want to point out the fact that sometimes it can be subtle to the point where people will debate if it's a rebrand or not. Sometimes it's a lot more dramatic and it's a lot more obvious. So just kind of keep in mind your mileage will vary with this. But you can find some really exciting information in here. When Kia did the rebranding for their logo from that old circle logo or that oval looking logo to the new one, Media Black Book detected that change 6 months prior to them making their public announcement that they were rebranding the company. So there's some really powerful information that can show up in here. So just kind of keep in mind that your mileage can vary depending on how sensitive the algorithm is and what kind of changes it's picking up. If you want to find the newly released stuff, you can also see that as well. And again, any forecasted stuff, you can also zoom forward and take a look at what is coming out. So it looks like we've got something called Women Fly Beyond W. Looks like it's some sort of leadership empowerment type of a thing, probably a program. Also, one of the things you'll notice about these activity details here is that they do tell you what is going on, with that rating. So why is it getting the rating it's getting? Well, in this case, we're dealing with a top 10 brand family member. These are the core family products. So this is not some sort of a side deal. Also, you'll be able to figure out if there are new products being sold. So we're looking at the keywords in their documents and we're trying to figure out what we haven't seen before. So some of this stuff, it looks like it might just be, tchotchke merchandising stuff, sweatpants, hoodies, track pants. I wouldn't really put too much into this. However, if there's something significant, just kind of use your head about this. For example, a few months ago, I saw something about Tesla getting into roadside restaurant services, and probably going to be a part of their charging stations or charging network or something like that. Well, that is something that is worth paying attention to because it kind of makes sense. You're going to have to use your intuition on this sort of thing, but this is also really powerful information down here in this new product field. So that's essentially how the activity pane works. There are other panels that you can take a look at in any given report. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of those panels. Obviously, we've got the overview panel. This is essentially a breakdown of the top 20 brand properties that they own, descriptions about what the company does. You'll notice that we have highlighted their primary descriptor. So there's always going to be a product and always a service description. We try to highlight the one that is the most appropriate. And in this case, it's transportation and storage because, hey, it's an airline, right? They ship and they transport stuff. There's an information panel here that gives you more information about the company, address, how many brands they have, how long they've been around, phone numbers, number of markets they've been in. Occasionally, you'll also be able to figure out who their creditors are, who they're borrowing money from. All that kind of stuff will show up under here. If you want to learn more about the corporation's corporate family, just head under the Connect tab and you'll be able to find more information about the subsidiaries, companies that have suspiciously similar names, addresses, all that kind of stuff. It's very helpful if you're working in these big accounts and you're trying to basically figure out where to go. Sometimes it feels like you're navigating a rat maze when you're dealing with some of these bigger companies, and this particular channel can be very, very helpful in helping you figure out where you got to go and who you got to talk to. We also provide additional information, like for example, that's a good example here. Contact data for the company. We break it down by departments, all that good stuff. If you want to learn more about an agency partners, let's go ahead and bring up some examples here. So you can see that we are sorting the agency relationships by the brands. So these are different agencies that have worked with that particular brand. And all you got to do is just click through, and you'll be able to access the agency profile, who the contacts are, all that kind of stuff. If you'd like to learn more about the media breakdown, again, all you got to do is just open up a media tab and you'll be able to find that out as well. One thing I want to point out about this, though, is that the media breakdown is not a real-time tracking type of a thing. So we're not telling you they spent X amount of money last month or last week on a particular media format. These are strictly estimates that are based off of historical data. But there is a lot of power in this because we're looking at the data that spans the entire lifetime of the business, essentially, from what we can find in all our different documents. So in other words, what you're looking at here are long-term preferences, and that's a powerful thing to know because trends and fads are just that. They're trends and they're fads. If you find somebody in the system that is really into, for example, maybe out of home or one of the more niche categories, in-store advertising, that kind of stuff, and they have a big pie percentage here for that. If I were you, I'd give them a call. Odds are pretty good they're probably into it, because if they're an old company and they have a big percentage like that, your odds are just going to be better. So keep in mind, these are strictly estimates, okay? This is not the gospel here, but it is very helpful to figure out what people are into and what they're not into. And that's basically it, folks. That's essentially how the system works. If you'd like to learn more about Media Black Book, if you have any questions, curiosities, anything like that, just give me a call or shoot me an email, chris@mediablackbook.com, and we can go ahead and get you taken care of. We are running a special this month. It's a grand opening special. It's available only till the end of the month. And it is essentially 400 free credits for 1 week. So they're good for 1 week. You can get quite a few profiles opened up for 400 credits. If you're interested in that, just hit up the website and send in an application to get access. Other than that, thanks for watching. Talk to you later.